What's going on, everyone? Ray Del Vecchio here, and in this full tutorial, we're going to create the website that you're looking at step by step. This is built with WordPress and Divi by Elegant Themes, and I'm going to bet that by the end of this video, it's going to be much easier than you think right now to make a professional website like this, regardless if you have any previous experience with websites or no code. For this tutorial, I didn't want to guess on what theme to use, which that's sort of what I did in the past years. Instead, this year I surveyed thousands of my subscribers, and the #1 clear winner was Divi. I had heard about them several times, but I've used the same theme on all of my personal and client websites for almost 7 years now. In that time, the WordPress landscape has changed so much. After using Divi for the past couple of weeks, I understand why it's one of the most popular themes available, and you're going to see why today. Just by the way, this tutorial is about 2 hours long, so if you don't have that time right now, you can go through a free WordPress 101 course that I offer. I'll link that up here and in the description below. You'll get a few additional videos giving you a tour of the WordPress admin area, and it will include this full video at the end, so you can follow that along at your own schedule. If you're ready to start building right now, I'm going to also include a link to Divi in the description. It's a great choice whether you are building a personal blog or a business website like this landscaping theme that we're about to create. So let's start right now from scratch. We're going to register the domain and set up web hosting. And this year I'm partnering with HostGator to give you a special offer. So I'll include that link below, but first, just give me a quick minute. I'm going to walk you through HostGator's website and your options. So right now I'm on the HostGator homepage, and up at the top bar here, the navigation menu, you're going to see a lot of options for hosting. So you have regular web hosting, cloud hosting, WordPress hosting, which you might think we need since we're installing WordPress, VPS, dedicated, and they also do domains. But my recommendation is if you're a complete beginner and you don't know what hosting you need, just go with their most basic web hosting because it's really easy to upgrade. And you're usually not going to need to upgrade until you start getting traffic, which is going to take some time. So the big button here is going to lead you to the web hosting page. They both go to the same place. So let's click the Get Started button. And this is where they have a breakdown of their plans. So they have 3 options: the hatchling plan, the baby plan, and the business plan. And the main differences between these, the first is that with the hatchling plan, you can only build one website on one domain, whereas on the baby and the business plan, you can do unlimited domains. And they recommend the business plan here, but like I said, I think that your best bet is just to start with the hatchling plan, build your first website, and go from there. And if you'd like to do multiple websites, you can always upgrade. Instead of going through this buy now link for the hatchling plan, I'm going to use the special link that I mentioned before, which is also going to be available to you below. And if you just want to type it in, it's hostgator.com/WPC1. And if you go there, you'll find my landing page, and this is actually the home page of my website. So this is a special offer for my website visitors. And if you click the Start Your Website Now button, it's going to automatically take you to the checkout page for the hatchling plan with the code applied. And right now the billing cycle is set to 36 months. That's 3 years, and you get 60% off. What I recommend doing is changing that to either 6 months or 12 months, and that'll give you the best deal. So if I do 12 months, you're going to get 45% off their normal price, which is $8.95 a month. And let me start filling out the form here. So I'm going to register a new domain, and this one's going to be landscapingtheme.com. And it looks like they automatically brought me over to this other drop-down menu once I typed in the dot. And they should search that out, and hopefully, if all goes well, this will be available. And it looks like it is, so I'm going to add it on here. They also loaded in other extensions if you want to do that, but I generally recommend just sticking with the .com if it's available, and also just keeping your domain name as short as possible so it's as memorable as possible. If you already have a domain name, you can use this other tab here, but let me scroll down, and we can also add in domain privacy protection. So by default, some of your contact details like your email address might be publicly available, and with this option you can hide that for somewhere around 15 bucks a year. This is normally not that big of a deal if you want to save the money, but if you're doing it for a business reason and you want to hide that, obviously it's not that big of a cost. So I'm going to uncheck this box and move on here. I'm going to create a username, and I just filled that out along with the security pin. The next section here is your billing info. So once again, you can go through and fill this out. This is where you can choose between paying with a credit card or your PayPal account if you have that available. You can just select the radio button here. The next section here is the additional services. So by default, you're going to get HTTPS. That's a free SSL security certificate. And that just encrypts your web pages when people load them. So it's a safer way to browse the web. A lot of people that already have websites created don't even know about this. So they're running the old technology. So this is actually an advantage of being a beginner. And then with the other options here, I just like to uncheck all of these because you can always upgrade if you need them, but most of this stuff you can do yourself or find out ways to do it for free. So we're kind of just going with the most basic package. And as I mentioned before, your coupon code's already going to be loaded in. If for some reason you get to this page in another way and you want to apply this coupon code, it's WPC1. And that's just the acronym for my website, which is websiteprofitcourse.com. But if we look at our total here, you'll see that we have 1 year domain registration at $8, and we have 12 months of the Hatchling plan, which is normally $107, and we're getting that for $59. So for less than $75, you're going to be set up for an entire year, which is going to give you time to build your website, to build traffic to your website, and create a great design. So I highly recommend that you register for the longest term you can afford so you can get the best deal, get the most money off, and you're going to be so much more motivated to build that thing. So let's finish up the process here. I'm going to check this box, and I'm going to click the checkout button. And once I finish this, I'll join you back here. You should be brought to this welcome page, and this is where you can manage your account. So if you look at the tabs up here, you'll have the My Account tab, the billing, where you can update your payment information, hosting, where you can manage your hosting packages and domains if you register any domains with HostGator. And this is also where you can access support if you need it. Another thing I want to note, because I got a lot of feedback on this last year, sometimes when you do this, it may take up to 24 hours for your website to be live and for your account to be live. So it's normal if this doesn't happen right away. I edited that out last year and I had so many questions about it. So give it at least 24 hours for your account to be ready and before you move on to these next steps. You're also going to get a couple emails from HostGator. So let me pop over to my Gmail tab here, and you'll get your billing account information. So you'll get a username and password to manage your HostGator billing. The more important thing at this point is your hosting account information, because that's where you're going to log in to install WordPress. So you should see an email that has this title, hostgator.com, your account info. And this is what we want to click into. And this is going to give us all our information. So we can update our website from this control panel. So this is the link to the control panel. They give us our username, our password, along with our domain name, and then our name servers. And the name servers are what link your domain name to HostGator's web hosting. So let's say you had your domain name registered through another service like GoDaddy.com. You can still set up hosting on HostGator and then just go to the DNS settings within GoDaddy and then update those fields with your HostGator name servers. So that's how that works with this. But since you purchased domain registration and hosting together, they're already going to be linked. So that's just one less step that you have to worry about. I'm going to open up the control panel in a new tab here, and I will copy and paste the username and password to see if we can log in. And let's give this a shot. And it looks like this didn't work, so I may have to wait for this to activate before everything's ready here. It's the next morning here. I just let this do its magic overnight, let HostGator take care of everything. I didn't have to contact them, and I'm going to give this a shot again to see if our login works. So let's give this a try, and we're good to go. So as I mentioned before, I had a lot of people contact me, and they asked whether they needed to do anything, if they had to contact HostGator support to get things working. Like I said, just give it 24 hours and try and log in again. Everything should be good. We got a couple pop-ups here, and this pop-up is for LastPass, and that's my preferred password manager. And this top bar here is for constant contact email marketing. So this is something that they obviously partner with HostGator if you want to do email marketing. I actually prefer using MailChimp. They're a free service. I don't think Constant Contact is free, but we don't have to worry about this for the time being. A real quick overview. The cPanel is where you control all the elements of your website, and that includes your files. So they have a file manager here. You also can get FTP access. There's Windows and Mac programs that you can use to transfer files from your computer to the web server. You can also take a look at your databases. WordPress in itself is a database-driven system. So once you install WordPress, you're going to have a database on your web server. And the other important thing that you might want to look at is your email. So this is where you can create email accounts, or if you want, just do email forwarders. So you can create email under your custom domain, but just forward it to your existing account, whether that's Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook. But what we're looking for here is up here in the popular links section, build a new WordPress site. So if we click on that, it's going to take us to a page where we can install WordPress on our web server with one click. So we select our domain from here, and you get to choose whether you want to install WordPress on a subdirectory, but my recommendation is that you do this right on your top level directory unless you have a specific reason not to. And we'll click the next button, and we fill in our WordPress website details. So we have our blog title, admin user. I usually like to just do my first name, all lowercase, and then we can type in our first name and our last name along with our email. So once we have all these fields filled, we can see that we have this checkbox here which says automatically create a new database for this installation. I mentioned that before. And you also have to accept their terms and service agreement. And then we just click install, and within about 30 seconds here, they're going to give us our WordPress admin username and password. And it looks like our installation is complete, and here are our details. We have our domain, where it was installed to, the username and password. This is our WordPress username and password, and we have our login button here. So let me just copy the password. I'll open the login link in a new tab, and if you take a look at this domain, it's yourdomain.com/wpadmin. That actually redirects here, but if you type in yourdomain.com/wp-admin, that's how you're going to get to the login page of your WordPress website after it's installed. And this is where we can type in our username and password. And once we log in, this is where we can begin building our website. So we got a lot of pop-ups here. One of the things that a lot of these web hosting companies do is they'll set you up with various plugins installed on your WordPress site. In general, I usually like to delete all of them and start from scratch, but that's completely up to you. And the way that we can take a look at our website is if we scroll up here and we hover over this blog title, we'll get a drop-down menu where it says Visit Site. And if I open this in a new tab, you'll be able to take a look at our website, which is using a very basic theme here. So we're going to end up customizing this website using the Divi theme. And I'll overlay a quick demo video that I grabbed from their website, which is elegantthemes.com. But they make it so easy to create a mobile responsive layout in minutes using a drag and drop system. So I think that's what most beginners are looking for, and it really makes it easier for developers as well. And the first I heard of Divi was through their ads. They've run a lot of ads towards me. I'm sure they target me because I'm a WordPress guy. But then I surveyed my email subscribers to see what themes you're using, and to my surprise, Divi was the winner by a really large margin. So I immediately decided to buy it, and I planned this step-by-step tutorial. And as I started to learn it, I took a few notes, so I just want to share those with you. So I'm going to pop over to a couple slides that I put together here. The ways that you can design your website with drag and drop come down to these three elements. The main top-level element that you're going to use within Divi are sections. And you'll notice that they are surrounded with a blue border. And I grabbed the colors here directly from the Divi visual editor. And there's three main types of sections. There's regular sections, which those are built completely with your own content modules. There's specialty sections, and that's if you want to use the default WordPress sidebar layout and customize that with widgets. And then you have the full width sections, which they don't let you use columns in those. So that's just specifically for full width content. Then within the sections, you can create rows and columns. They're going to be surrounded by a teal border. And within your rows and columns, you're going to fill that up with content. And content is added through the modules. And they're going to be dark gray. And I think Divi, I don't know the exact number, but I feel like they have something like 30 to 50 different content modules. And if for some reason you're not covered by any of those, you can customize with code if you'd like. But the real cool thing that separates Divi is that you can save any of these modules, whether it's a section, a row, or a content module, to your Divi library, and then you can reuse it from page to page. Or you can save an entire page layout and reuse that. And this can be done in two ways. The first is if you just save the module, you can drop it in on another page and then customize it. The other method is using what's known as a global module, and that's if you want to create something once, use it in multiple spots, and maybe use it on 10 different pages, but you want that to update everywhere when you edit it once. So that's what happens with a global module. So overall, Divi is really cool in this regard, and the other nice thing is that when you pay for their premium package, you have access to a lot of pre-made layouts, so you don't need to start from scratch and design yourself. You can start with a pre-made layout and customize that. But for this tutorial, I'm going to start from scratch just so you can get to know the system a little bit. The other couple of notes I have here is that with Divi, you can edit either visually through the WYSIWYG editor, and that's just an acronym for what you see is what you get. They also have a backend builder where you can edit through blocks, and it completely eliminates any of the visual aspect to your layout. I obviously recommend that you stick with the visual editor just so you can take a look at what you're editing as you're editing it. The Divi editor is going to replace the standard WordPress editor, and you get to pick whether you want to use the Divi editor or the WordPress editor from page to page or post to post. As you're building, you can press Ctrl-Z at any time to undo a change that you made. If you didn't save a layout, you can just exit out of the page without saving, and nothing's going to be published to the live website. And at the bottom of every page, when you're editing visually, you're going to see this dock icon, which is just a purple circle with 3 dots. If you click that, it's going to show you your entire menu, and that's where you can load an entire page layout from the Divi library or get a pre-made layout. You can clear a layout entirely, go through your editing history, import and export layouts, and save the design that you make. So those are the basics, and you'll see all this as we begin to edit the landscaping website. If you want to check out more about Divi, I'm going to include a link in the description below. Let's move back to the WordPress admin area and start building this website. I'm back here within WordPress, and the first thing that I like to do with all websites is just delete all these pre-installed plugins. So let me just go to the plugins page here, and because there's so much installed, I gotta scroll down to even get past these notifications. And I just want to select every one of these plugins. I'm going to deactivate them first, because a lot of times you can't delete unless they're deactivated. So once they're all deactivated, then you'll see all the notifications have been removed. And I want to do the same thing, select them all and then delete them now. And once we go through this, there's going to be one more plugin left. If you look on the right side of this screen, which just moved over to the left here now that everything's deleted, there's a plugin section here called Must Use. So let me just click on this plugins menu again to refresh this page. And if we go over to the Must Use, HostGator is going to pre-install this plugin called Endurance Page Cache. And really, this is just to save bandwidth when your website's loaded. it's going to store a cached version, and it's both good for you and good for HostGator. But the problem is that when you're building the website, you may see old versions of something, update a part of your website, and it doesn't update on the front end. And I had this happen to me, and it took me like 3 days to figure out what was going on because there was no documentation about this. This is obviously something that they had updated recently. And thankfully, I was able to get information from the plugin developer. I got his email address, and he responded within a day, and I was kind of surprised by that. I was really thankful. In general, I like to do caching myself using another plugin, W3 Total Cache. So this is something that I just like to delete completely. So the first thing I want to do, they create something within settings here. If I go to the general settings, at the bottom of the page, it sets it to this cache level. It adds this to the menu. I want to set this to off. And then I want to go back to the plugin section and then purge the cache. And what I'm going to do is go into an FTP program. That just stands for File Transfer Protocol, but that gives you access to the files on your web server. So if I pop over to FileZilla, this is the program that I use for FTP. And on the right side of the screen, I'm connected to my web server. And usually your website files are going to be in a public folder or this public_HTML folder. And then with WordPress, the plugins are within the WP content. And all the plugins are within this plugins folder. The must-use plugins are within this MU plugins folder. So if I go into here and just delete this file, then we will be ready to develop the website without worrying about any of these cache issues. And then once it's launched, we can install a cache plugin. If I refresh this page, you should see that there's nothing here now. So we're ready to go with a clean installation. And now that I'm on the plugins page, I'm just going to add 2 plugins. The first one I install on every site nowadays, and this is called Really Simple SSL. So all it does is just redirects any non-HTTPS website requests to the secure version. So I'll install and activate it. And once we do that, any non-secure website request will just automatically get forwarded to the HTTPS version. I'm just going to click this button, go ahead, activate SSL. And they mentioned that if you already have properties set up within Google Analytics or Webmaster for your website, you might want to change the versions of that to the HTTPS. But I'm just going to remove this notification and install one more plugin, and this one is called Child Theme Configurator. And you'll notice that once we transfer over to HTTPS, it's going to log us out. We have to log back in here. So let me do that. And now we're on the secure HTTPS. So now I can search for Child Theme Configurator. And if I just type in child theme, it should be one of the first couple that pops up. Yeah, it's number 1 here. So we'll install it. And what this is going to do is allow us to create a child theme for Divi. And this is just good practice because it really ensures that any customizations you make to your website are not going to be lost if the parent theme, which is Divi in this case, is updated and you update their software. So let's activate this, and we'll go through the process of creating a child theme, which takes just a couple of seconds. But before we do that, let's just go through some of the WordPress settings that are independent of the theme. And one thing that I do for most websites, especially websites that are business-oriented and not just a blog, that's go through and create the framework for all the pages. And by default, WordPress is set up to show your blog posts on the home page. But for a business-oriented website, we'd rather have a page dedicated for the home page and create a separate blog page where all the blog posts are shown. So I'm going to go through and create the pages that we're going to use on this website. And this is going to be really simple since it's a landscaping website. I'll just set up a home page, a blog page, an about page, a services page, and a gallery page. And then I'm also going to include a quote button, which is going to be on the navigation menu, but instead of going to the pages, it's just going to link to a contact form that's already on the screen. So I'm going to just delete these, just like the plugins. I want this to be a clean website setup, so I will delete these, move them to the trash, and then I'm going to create my pages here. And you'll see once we create a page, we see the new WordPress editor. So this is what's known as the Gutenberg editor. And this comes along pre-installed with the WordPress 5.0 update. So if you're completely new to WordPress, this is just going to be the way it is for you. But if you have any experience with WordPress, this is a completely new user interface, and it might shock you. The thing with Divi is we're going to remove this ability to edit with the WordPress blocks. So I'm not going to do anything in terms of editing the pages. I just want to create them, create the titles, and create the URLs. So I'm just going to call this one home. And I'm going to go through and publish all these just with a title but no content. So that's published. I'll click the add new button. And repeat this for all the other pages. And we finished up here, so if I click back to the pages, we should see all the pages that we just created. And the next thing that I like to do is go through the settings. So if we go to the general settings here, this is where you define your site title and the tagline. When you pre-install WordPress, it always comes along with this, just another WordPress site tagline. Sometimes that's displayed, other times it's completely hidden unless you decide to display it. But on this page, we're not really going to edit anything. And then you'll notice that since we deleted the Endurance page cache, we don't have that cache level option at the bottom here. But I don't like to update anything on this page besides the title and the tagline. The same goes for the writing. Just to give you a quick view of this, I don't update anything. The only thing you might want to update is the default post category for your blog, if you even have a blog. For this, I'm creating the blog page, but we're not going to write any blog posts. We're just going to create the basis of a business website. Now, where I do update the settings is under the reading tab here. And like I mentioned, your homepage by default shows your latest blog posts, but we want to set this to a static page, and we're going to pick the pages that we just created. So for the homepage, I created a homepage to match that, and for the post page, I want that to be linked to our blog page. So I'm going to save the changes for this. The discussion tab, this is for comments on your blog and your website. The media, this is your default image sizes when you upload. So I like to leave these at the default values. And we're going to go into the permalinks here because WordPress might use this weird linking structure where you have your domain name, but then you also have this index.php. You have the year and the month in the URL. So it's a really long URL, and I don't like that. I like to keep the URL simplified and clean. So to do that, I would say all of my WordPress websites, I think actually 100% of them, have this post name structure where it's just the domain slash either the page name or the blog post name. So I like to do that. We'll save the changes and we're good to go. We're ready to install our theme. So if we go to Appearance Themes, this is where we can select our theme. And WordPress, they come out with a theme every year, and that's what's pre-installed here. They have their 2015, 2016, 2017, and they didn't come out with one in 2018, but they have one with 2019 that's paired with the WordPress 5.0 update and the Gutenberg editor. So we're going to add our Divi theme. This is a zip file that when you purchase Divi, you can download it from Elegant Themes website. And I'll include a link to Divi in the description below. So let's upload our theme. And it's just this divi.zip file. It's about 7 megabytes. So we're going to install it, and we'll activate it, and then once we have that going, we'll create our child theme. So let me activate this, and then we will go into the child theme configurator settings, which that's down here in the, the tools menu. So if we go to tools, child themes, this is where we can create our child theme, and I'm going to call this a landscaping child theme based on the Divi parent theme, and all of our customizations are going to be associated with the child theme, so we can update Divi every time that they come out with a security update or some type of new update. Which one thing I want to mention is that they sent out an email that if you are a Divi user, this again goes to people who have experience with WordPress, but if you are a Divi user, you have to update your Divi theme to version 3.18 or above for it to work properly with WordPress 5.0 and the Gutenberg editor. So that's an important note if you already have Divi installed. But if you're a complete new user, You don't have to worry about that. So you'll see how easy this is. We just select create a new child theme. We pick our parent theme, which is Divi. It's going to select the active theme. So we'll analyze it just to make sure that we're good to go. And instead of calling this Divi child, I want to call it landscaping, like I said. And everything else on here I'm going to leave as is. So let's create this child theme. And once it's created, we will activate it. And it looks like our child theme has been generated successfully. So let's go back to Appearance Themes, and we'll be able to activate it. And you can see immediately here they have a new version available. So they probably came out with this new version of Divi within the last few days. I'll head over into the Divi settings in a moment, and we will update that. In order to do that, you need to put in an API key, which you get when you purchase the Divi theme. Let me do one more quick thing here. I like to create a menu, so a main navigation menu. You could do that within the Appearance menu section. You can name it whatever you like. I normally just call it main nav or main navigation. But this is going to be the main menu that we show in the header of every page, and if you'd like, you can display it in a few other spots. So let's just create it, and we can manually select all the pages. If we click the View All tab, that's going to show us everything. And the one thing you see is there's two elements for the home page, right here and here. Either one's going to work. So I'm just going to add these, and then we can drag and drop them to select the order. I'll put the home first, about, and then I'll do the services page, the gallery page, the blog page, and I'm going to add in a custom link. And as I said, this is going to be an on-page link to the contact form. So for right now, I'm just going to put a placeholder in here. I'll put the hashtag symbol. And for the link text, I'll put quote. And we'll add that to the menu. And then you can do a couple things here. If you want to create submenus, you can just drag this inward and it'll create a sub item. The other thing that you can do is if you'd automatically like to add the pages to the menu when you create them, you can select this checkbox, automatically add new top level pages, and then when you create a new page, it'll just be added. Otherwise, you'll have to manually update this menu each time you add a new page. So ultimately, that's going to depend on if you're creating a bunch of test pages or landing pages that you don't want included in your main nav menu. If you are, then you're probably not going to want to select this, but if you're keeping it simple, this will make things easier. And then in terms of the Divi theme, you can select where you'd like this to display. So I'm going to select the primary menu for this. So we'll save this menu. And the next thing we want to do is go into the Divi settings. So when you install Divi, it's going to add this Divi option to your menu bar. And they have their own customization options. So this is something that I think can confuse people with WordPress, but WordPress has their own customization options. You can customize by installing themes, which have a bunch of customizations built in, and then those themes have various options that the user can customize. That's all up to the theme developer. So what I have found is that I generally like sticking with one theme, and the reason I didn't really know about Divi for a long time was because I picked my theme like 8 years ago, and I've been using the same theme on every website because I don't like to relearn all these various things. And that has really helped my process. I can build a site really quickly because of my familiarity with the theme that I select. But I have to say, I've only been using Divi for, I would say, less than maybe a week or two now. And it's really intuitive, and you can do a lot that I can't do with the theme that I chose. So I highly recommend them for the beginners out there. Let's head over to the Divi theme options here. First off, in order to get updates, we need to put in our API key. So I'll go over to the Updates tab on here, and in another tab I have the Elegant Themes members area open. So this is where you can download Divi, access the tutorials, and if you go to your account settings, you'll see the submenu Your API Key, and you can generate new API keys for each site. And they recommend that you do this, especially if you're developing websites for clients, because if a client doesn't pay you, then you can just deactivate their API key and not have it affect any of your other websites. Copy it and paste it into here along with your username. And when we save the changes, we should be able to get the notifications for updates and just be able to update this as long as we have an active Elegant Themes account. and I'll go back to the General tab, and this is where we can start updating and customizing our design. The first thing here is for a logo. I have a logo file for a company named Ray's Lawn Care, so let me upload this image. So we'll set that. By default, they have a fixed navigation bar, so when you scroll down, the navigation bar is going to stay at the top. I have a color palette, and the cool thing about Divi is they let you set the default color palette, and then that way when you're customizing any section of the website, instead of needing to put in the hex code or some other custom code, you can select from your color palette. So let me show you the PDF file that I have with the color palette. And this was a random generated color palette from this site, coolers.co. I made one, or actually two small changes. This was a light gray, and I just changed it to pure white, which is hex code FFF. And then this red was a little bit more of a dull red, so I just made it a little bit brighter in color. Obviously, as a landscaping theme, I wanted the main color to be a nice green, and that's what this is here, kind of like a forest green, or maybe a little bit lighter or brighter than a forest green. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these color codes into the color palette. So I'll do one of them here, and then I'll fast forward the video with the rest of them. So let me select this, copy it, and because I have these first three colors in the color palette, I'm going to change this orange color over here to the green. So let me paste it in, and you can see that changed. So let me go ahead and update the color palette with the rest of these colors, and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, the other thing that I'm going to do here, the last thing that I'm going to do here, even though there's a lot of options left, is select the social media icons that are going to appear. So they show Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and these are just the URLs. I can deselect or disable them through this. So let me show Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to disable the Google Plus and the RSS icon. And that's all we'll need for this page at the moment. You can put custom CSS down here. This is another thing about WordPress. You can customize with CSS in a number of spots. So they give you the option here within the theme options. WordPress gives you the option to customize with CSS in the Appearance Customize section. And then if you want to do it by code, you can go into the Appearance Editor and edit your child theme's style.css file. So there's a number of ways to customize with any given theme. There really is no one correct way. It's just important that you understand how you customize and make sure that it doesn't interfere with the parent theme updates. So I'll save these changes, and I'm going to set some default values in the next section up here. And I'm not going to go to any of these tabs. I want to go over to the theme customizer here. So now that we have a color palette selected, I can set some default values for color and for spacing on the elements that we're going to use. And this goes to show you how much you can customize with Divi. You can see there's like 12 menu items, something like that on here. So this is our website now. We have our logo up here. The menu's over on the right. And we have just a really plain white layout with our home page and a sidebar. And you can see the footer, we have our Facebook and our Twitter logo. So let me go into the general settings, and here you can change the site identity. This should be the title and tagline that we saw within the general settings. They also give you some layout settings, and this is what we're going to look at. So on here you can see that our content width is set to 1080 pixels. The gutter width is set to 3. I don't know exactly what that is, but it looks fine to me, so I'm not going to adjust that. I'm going to leave all these at the default, but the one thing I want to change is the theme accent color. So this is set to a blue. I want to change it to the tan color within our color scheme, and you'll see that it's super easy now that we have our color palette selected. So I just got to switch that up, and I will move on to the next item here. I'm going to go to typography, and you can change the text size, the line height, whether you want to bold or italicize by default. I want to update the header line height from 1 to 1.5 because I'm going to use the header in a couple spots here where it's going to go to a second line, and if this is at 1, then there's going to be almost no spacing between the first line and the second line. And the last thing I'm going to change on this page is the body link color. I want to change this to our red. That's all I'm going to update with the typography, and I can move back here and again I'm going to go to the header navigation, and this is where we can update our header format. So right now our logo is on the left, so let me select centered from the drop down here, and you can see it got real big there but then resized. If you'd like to test out some of the other options here, you can do that. This is right in the center with the menu items on the left and the right. I don't like the way that looks on this. Then you have the slide-in menu, which is almost like a mobile menu by default. That actually looks pretty good, but I don't want it to show like this on a desktop. So I'm going to stick with centered here. And then I'm going to go to the primary menu bar. So this is the menu that we're looking at here, right under the logo. To give it a little contrast with the logo, I want to change this to uppercase. So I can change that under the font style here. And that's this option. I'm also going to change the active link color to the red instead of the blue. And I'm going to enable a secondary menu here. So let me go back to the secondary menu settings. And that's going to be right above the logo. And it's going to show the phone number and a contact email address. So I want to set that background color to our black, which is a little bit of a dark gray. It's not quite black. And I'll move back here and change one thing within the header elements. So this is where we can set our phone number, email for that secondary menu that I was just talking about. And I can also select if I want to show the search icon. So I probably wouldn't do this on a local business site that's really simple. I think that's definitely more for content-oriented sites that have a lot of blog posts. So I'm going to deselect that to hide it and just put in some fake numbers here for the phone number and the email address. And we're good to go with that. So I'll head back here. And one more section that I'm going to update are the buttons, because we're going to use some buttons and I want to set the default style. So let me move into the button style. I want to make the text size a little bigger, so I'm going to change this from 20 to 24. And you can always just drag and drop here if you'd like to do that. I mean, there's so many options. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I kind of want to zip through it here, but Divi makes it really easy to access all of the CSS styles, but do it from a visual interface. So I want to change the background color of the button to the red to make it contrast with the other sections. By default, they have a border radius, but I want to keep these square, so I'm going to set this to 0. And I'm also going to change the font style to uppercase, kind of like the menu. And we can add an icon to the button, which shows when you hover over it, and by default it's this little right arrow, so I'll keep that as is. I believe that's all I'm going to update within these Divi customizing options. So let me publish all of these, and we'll start building the layout from the visual editor. I realized one little change here. This background color is set to completely transparent. So I have to drag this transparency up to make sure that it shows as the red color. So I'll publish that. Meant to hit the publish button there. I'm going to move over to the pages section and you'll see how we can bring up the Divi editor. So if I go to the pages here, when I hover over any of these pages, you'll see this little edit with Divi button. So let me do that with the home page, and it's going to bring up the way the page looks on the live website, but it's going to overlay this visual editor that makes it super easy to edit. And they bring up a tutorial this first time here. We're just going to start building, learn by doing here, and we have the template loading. And this is where you can clone a page you've already created, or they have packs of pre-made layouts. So that's another great way to start. We're just going to build from scratch. And as I mentioned in those slides before we started, this is where we're going to insert our rows. The blue area is the section. And then within our rows and columns, that's where we put our modules. So this first section here, I'm going to make it a banner section, and I'm going to add one row here, one column. And we'll add a few modules. I'm going to have a headline, I'm going to have one line of text, and I'm going to have a free quote button. So I just need to search here for the text module. You can also browse through the various modules that they offer. But we're going to use a bunch of them on this website. And for this, I'm going to make the headline, "Make Your Lawn Perfect." So we're editing the content within this visual editor, which kind of looks like the old WordPress editor, which they've removed in WordPress 5.0 in lieu of the block system. But this is where we can update our text. You can also add a background, but this is a text module. I'm gonna add the background to the entire section. So let me just update the design of this text, and I'm gonna center it. So we're gonna make it bold. We are going to make it larger. I'm gonna go to 48 pixels on this. And like I said, I want to center it down here. Just have to scroll a little bit further to get that. And I'm going to use a light color scheme. I'm going to make this white. Right now that's going to disappear, but I'm going to change that background to a dark background image. So let's go ahead and do that. So I want to hover over the section, click the settings button. We're going to update the background, so you can just set the background color if you like. This is where you can put a gradient. And then they also give you the option to do an image and a video. So we're going to do a background image. And I grabbed a bunch of images that I might be able to use on this website from the free stock photo site Pexels.com. That's Pexels.com. And I got about probably 15 here. So the one I'm going to use for the background image is this close-up of grass. And it's a pretty green photo. We're going to add an overlay to it, which you'll see how easy Divi makes that. But I'm going to change the attachment details here to go full size. And I think we control the alignment from the module settings. So let me just upload that. You can see how it looks there without the overlay. But if I scroll down, it gives us the option to blend this background image. And this is where we can select the overlay setting. And as I did that, I forgot to change the background color to dark. So once we set that to our dark gray color on our color palette, that's going to give us that nice banner look. And then once we add the other modules and give it a little padding, it's going to look great and also break down to mobile sizes without needing to do any custom styles. So this editor here, by the way, this is how you edit all the different sections. You can drag and drop this anywhere, which is pretty awesome. Make it bigger if you like, and you can go backwards and forwards, redo and undo. You can close from this window, and if you want to update something, just click this check mark. And as I also mentioned in those beginning slides, we have the option here to bring up the dock and save our layout. So I'm kind of a chronic saver. I realize that you don't want to make a ton of changes and just have something crash and lose all your changes. The same thing goes for backing up your WordPress website on a daily or at least weekly basis. But when it comes to building and customizing a site, this is how I do it. I go through all these little changes, make a few changes here and there, make sure they look good, save it, and move on, and do that like 100 times. So if we scroll over here, you can also drag and drop any of these sections, any of these elements, and you can duplicate them. So I'm going to hover over this content module and duplicate it. That's this double box icon right here. So I'm going to duplicate this and just change this from a headline sizing to a regular text size. They also give the option to just edit the text here visually. You can bold it, italicize it, but I'd rather do that from the module settings. So let me click out here and click on the settings icon. Go over to the design, and I'll move this back down to a regular size. I'll go 18 pixels. And I don't want this to be bold, so I'm going to make this regular text. We'll also change the content to a slogan. Let me fill this in. And I put here, with Ray's Landscaping, you'll never have to worry about your lawn again. So we'll save that. And I want to add one more module here. And you can see here the plus button of the module is just being hidden by the plus button of the row. So that's kind of annoying. Might have to adjust the padding just to get that to show up. But let me add a module in between here, and I'll just drag and drop it under. So I'm going to add a button. And the button text, I want it to be free quote. For the link, I'm just going to put in the hashtag again as a placeholder, and then once we create the contact form, I'll link everything up. And if we go into the design, this is where we can center it. It looks like our text is not the right color, so we have to do a little bit of adjustments. I probably should have made them in the other settings, but we can customize it here. So it looks like I just need to enable this custom styles for the buttons. And I'll set the button text color to white. I want to remove the border. I meant to do that. And I want this hover color to show. I don't want it to disappear. So I think I just need to set this background color to our red, and hopefully when I hover over it now, yeah, we're good to go with this button. And I'm also going to change this icon. I'm going to customize the icon. So I'm going to change it to a check mark here. So gives it a nice little look. And now with this good to go, let me click the check mark and drag and drop this under the text, if I can do it. Or maybe let me try and drag the text up. That's probably a little bit easier. And there we go. So let me save this, and then I'll make just a couple adjustments to the padding. You can change the view down here in the bottom left. So this is what it would look like in a tablet, and this is what it looks like on mobile. And I have to change the line height on this. That's what's causing this. So let me jump into the module settings. It's kind of being covered by the row settings right there. But if I come into here, if I go to design and text, I can change the line height, and it says it's set to 1.7, but that's the default value, so it's obviously being overwritten by something, because if I change it to say 1.6, it's even wider. And I think about 1.2 looks good right there. So I'll call that good. And I'm going to adjust the padding on the section. So let me jump into the section settings here. You could do the padding and the margin through the spacing section. So I'm going to set the top padding to 30 pixels. And I'm going to set the bottom to 50 pixels. The other thing that they let you do here is add a divider. So just to give it a little bit more customization, you can browse through the dividers here, and they got a lot of interesting ones. So this is for the top divider. I want to revert that. I want to do something for the bottom divider. And I think that one looks pretty good. So the next section I'm going to add is going to have that white background, so it's going to flow seamlessly into that. So let's save that. And it looks like it just saved over there. I'm going to return to desktop view, so you can see how that looks. And we will add the next section here. So this is going to be a 3 widget section. So I'll do a regular section layout, an equally spaced 3 widget section. And we're going to add blurbs in here, and they include an image or an icon. You get to choose, and then you can put a title and a little bit of text. So I'm going to edit the image here. Let me choose image and icon, and I'll upload an image from my set of free stock images. This one I'm going to put in medium sized. I'm actually not sure if Divi inserts or selects the size themselves, or if it uses the size that you pick here. But because this is a smaller widget, I don't think we need the full size. And I'm going to edit the title text. So for this one, I'll put lawn maintenance, and I want to edit the design of these over here. Let me check out the text, and I want to center that. And for the title text, I want to make this bold and make it a little bit bigger. Let me see what size this is right now. So it's set to 18. I want to make it, let's go 24 pixels for this. I think that looks pretty good, so we'll check that off. And I'm going to just duplicate this, and I can drag and drop to these other 2 open slots here. So let me duplicate and move this over here, and I'll do the same thing. And I'll just edit the image and the title for both of these and You can see how quickly we developed that section. Got these images updated, and the next section that we're going to add here is a little call out section with 3 headlines and icons, and then to the right of that we're going to have a contact form, and that's where all of these buttons are going to link. So this free quote button and this quote button up here, they're both going to link to the contact form that we're going to create in this next section, and it'll just scroll down to it when they click on it, and they'll know that they have to fill out the form to get in touch with us. So let's add a section here. We want to add the blue button. This is also going to be a regular section, and it's going to be 2 columns, and I want the contact form to take up most of the space. So this looks like a good layout here. Probably about 1/3 for the first column and 2/3 for the second column. And the first module that we're going to add here is a blurb, and I'm just going to duplicate this a few times. So we're going to organize this blurb a little bit differently from the other one. And the first thing I want to do is adjust the section settings. So let me exit out of this blurb settings for a second. And to contrast the other section, I want to make this background green. So let's jump into the section settings and adjust the color here. So let's go into the blurb settings, and we're going to do a few things here. So I'm going to go into the image and icon because I'm going to swap out the image for the icon. This first one, I'm going to use the heart icon. So let me see if I could find that on here. There it is. So we're going to use that, and instead of putting it centered over top of the blurb, I'm going to align it to the left. So that's an option, I believe, over here in the design. So this is where we can select a placement. So I'm going to put it over on the left, and I want to make it bigger. So we'll enable this, and I'm going to make this, once again, it was at 90 something pixels, but that wasn't actually displaying as 90 pixels until I changed it here and customized it. I'm going to drag this somewhere around this size. So I think 54 pixels looks good. And in terms of the icon color, I don't want to use the tan. I actually want to contrast it to this green. So I'm going to select this green from the color palette, and I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter. And I say that's a good color right there. I'm okay with that. And this is a perfect example of something that I would, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would probably spend 2 or 3 hours just trying to figure out the color scheme instead of just grabbing one from that site that I mentioned before and moving along quickly. You know, most of these design things, every person's going to perceive them differently, so you don't want to spend an insane amount of time with them. I like to just put something out there, get it done, and you can update it a little bit over time, but launching as soon as possible is pretty important. So let me edit the text on these, and I'm just going to remove some of this text here to make it a little bit shorter. And I want to make both the text and the title white, so it contrasts the dark green background. So I could select the light color scheme right here under the text design section. And I also want to make the title text bigger. So I'll make it bold, and we will go up to, I think it's at 18 now. I'll go to 24. And as for the padding, I'm just going to put a little bit of padding on this element, and then we'll duplicate it so they're not bunched together too closely. So let me jump into the spacing, and for the top and the bottom padding, you can link them together by just pressing that button first, and then I'm going to use 15 pixels. And it'll automatically apply that to both. And I'm good with that. So let me just duplicate this 3 times. And I'm just going to go ahead and update the icons and the titles. And I'll join you back here in a second. Alright, so we got this taken care of. I put organic lawn care, 15 plus years experience, and locally owned and operated with a little pin here. So I love the way that these icons look. This is actually something that I didn't really utilize with code. I never got into it. I kind of used images in place of this to do this kind of thing with design. So the fact that you can just select from like 300 icon types is pretty awesome. So let's add in the contact form over here in this module. And if I scroll down here, it's right here. You could also just search for contact. And let me drag the box over here. So by default, they just give you the fields for name, email address, message. They have a little CAPTCHA here. You can't, I don't know if you can see it, but in gray text it says 2 + 0 =, and we have our submit button. So we need to do a little bit of styling to this. And because it's the local, I'm also going to add a phone number field. So let me do that first. I can add a new field here. And the field ID, I'll just call it phone. For the title, I'll put phone number. And you'll see that we'll be able to verify that this is a US number just by doing the number of digits. So we're going to make sure it's a 10-digit number. So if I go into the field options here, we can see this is just a standard input field. And I'm going to put both the minimum length and the maximum length at 10, just to make sure that we don't have spammers trying to fill this with any type of text or string. So we'll do that. And I'm going to add the phone number just above the message. We can drag and drop that pretty easily over here. For the time being, I'm also going to remove the CAPTCHA. I'll get to that in a second here. For the title, I'm going to put get a free quote. And I'll just leave everything else here at the default value in terms of the success message and the email subject, all that kind of stuff. For the button text, I'm just going to change it to send now. This isn't really major, but just to show you how you can do it. And this is where you can customize your email. But like I said, I'm just going to leave that at the default value, and we'll test it out, and I'll show you what the email looks like. And this is where we can disable the CAPTCHA, so I'm just going to do that for the time being. They let you redirect if you want to do this. So this is a way that you can track conversions. So say you redirect to a specific page, and if anybody reaches that page, that means they contacted you. You can track that within Google Analytics and see what sources of traffic are converting to leads for your company or your clients. So let me go into design here, and we'll start putting a few touches on this. So the first thing is the title. I want to make sure that this is also the light text. I don't know if I can just change the color scheme here, or if I have to do it manually. Looks like I got to do it manually, so I'm going to make this bold. I want to center it, and I'm going to make the title text color white, and I definitely want to make that bigger. So right now it's at 26. I'm going to go to let's go 36 pixels, and the line height, I'm going to change this from 1 EM to 1.5. And the next thing that I want to edit here is the form fields. So I'm actually going to put a text shadow behind this just so it stands out a little bit more. Let me jump down to the box shadow section, and I will apply, let's try this one here. So I think that looks pretty good. I just want to bring it in a little bit. It looks like the position is 10 pixels and 10 pixels offset. I want to go 5 and 5. So it's a little bit tighter there, and I think that looks pretty awesome. And I exited out of this, but I definitely want to change the button. So let me go into the design for the button. And just even as I'm recording this tutorial, I'm becoming more comfortable with Divi. The first couple of times I used this, it was confusing as to where I edit some of these things, and now it's becoming a lot more obvious as I'm going through a couple of layouts here. So for the button text color, I'm going to make this dark. And once again, I should have set this up in the theme settings so I didn't have to do this manually, but I want to remove the border. I'm going to make the button color tan, so I think I clicked the wrong button there. I'm going to make the button background color tan. And I think that looks good now. I like that button color contrasted with the dark green compared to the red button color that I'm going to use in the following section with a white background. So I think this contact form and this entire section is done. So we're going to move on to the next one. And this is going to be the last section that I'm going to add on the home page layout. And I'm going to make this one a global section. So this is going to be another section with blurbs, but I'm going to make the blurbs reviews. So, client testimonials or customer reviews. And I'm going to make it global so that it appears right above the footer on every page that we design. Let's add that section down here. Another regular section with 3 evenly spaced modules. We'll put a blurb in there. And the image on here, well, let's put the title in. So the way I'm going to do this is the title is kind of going to be like a quote from the testimonial, and that's going to be followed by the whole testimonial. So I'll just put, quote, the best in town, and I'll leave this as is, and I'll just add a byline to it, and to make it stand out a little bit, I'll make this bold. So let me highlight that and bold it, and I'll also italicize this as the testimonial. Let me drag this over so we can kind of see what we're looking at. And then for the image, I'm going to upload a 5-star image, which was part of another Divi template that I had before. And we can put this in there. Let me before I go into the design, I want to change the background. So to make this stand out a little bit, I'm going to make the background a dark gray. I'm sorry, a light gray. So for this, I'll do somewhere around like DDD. Let me see if I can select it. Yeah, I'm going to do hex code DDD, DDD, which is just a little bit off-white, but enough that you can see it. And I want to center everything in here and also give it a little bit of padding so the text is not butting up right against the edge. So let's go into the design, see what we need to update here, and that's how we can center it. Let's go into the spacing section to get our padding, and we'll put 30 pixels of padding. And I want to do that all across it, both top, bottom, and left and right. And then let me see if I want to adjust the text size. Maybe I'll make the title text a little bit bigger here. So I'll do maybe 20 pixels for the title text. And that looks good to me. So I'm going to duplicate this 3 times and fill up these modules. Oh, looks like I dragged the wrong thing there. Wanted to drag the module here, not the row. But it looks like nothing got messed up. So let me update the text on this, and I'll come back to you in a second. Alright, I just put a couple new titles and people in here, even though I didn't change the content itself. But I'm going to add 2 more things to this section. I want to add a title above this that says either customer testimonials or client reviews. And I want to add the red button below it to link to the contact form. So I'm essentially just going to duplicate this button up here, the free quote red button. In fact, maybe I'll go up here and add this button type, this button module to my library, and then see if I could just load it in with all those settings. So let me first add in a row up here if I can. I don't know if it's easy to add a row above here, so let me just add a row below. And I'll just drag and drop it. So we'll add a simple text module here. And it looks like they put it above here. I thought it was going to go below. But we'll just update this with reviews from our clients. And we'll design it. Make sure that we center it. Make it bigger. For this, we'll go pretty big, 36 pixels. Make sure it's bold. And center it. And I think that looks good to me. And then let me go back up here and see if I can add this to the library. So we'll try this out. And I'm just going to call this quote button, or quote BTN. So for the time being, I don't want to make this global. I could do that, but I'm just going to leave this as is just in case I want to customize this button So we'll save it to the library and see if I can import it down here. Let's give it a shot. We'll add a module. And add from library. We have our quote BTN. And there we go. So just let me drag and drop so we get the right order here. And see if I can drag this row below here. And there we go. Oh, that did not work. So let me see if I can drag this up. I think maybe dragging up works a little bit better than dragging down. So we're having a lot of issues here getting the right order. But you know what? This is real. This is how things operate. You don't get it right the first time. But there we go. After like 3 or 4 tries, we finally got it. So this section is good, and as I said, I'm going to save this section as a global module, but first I want to link up this quote button. So I'm going to link up all the quote buttons on this page to go to this form. So that's the next thing that we'll do, and then once I do that, I'll save this section as a global section that we could add to the rest of the inner pages. Now, to get this quote button to link to the quote form, we have to grab the ID of this contact form element, and that's what we're going to put in the linking field for these buttons. So if you don't know about code, one easy way to do this, let me actually go to the live website. Let me copy and paste this into a new tab. And what I will do is bring up the Chrome Inspector, and this is going to allow us to see the code. So let me bring this in the same window here so you can kind of see. And with the Chrome Inspector, you can hover over the code and it's going to highlight the area that that code represents on the page. So we're looking at this contact form here. And actually, I want this entire element. So I want the highest level element, not the form itself. So this is what I'm looking for. And if I could find the ID, so it looks like I have to go one level below, and here's the ID for this div element. It's etpb underscore contact form underscore 0. So I'm sure every contact form you add, it'll just be underscore 1, underscore 2, and increment that. But I just want one contact form on every single page, and that way all the links point to that form. So let me copy this ID, and you'll see how easy it is to adjust. So let me go down here and edit this button module, and we'll link it up. And this hashtag symbol, the £, that represents an HTML ID. So I preface this, the actual ID that we copied, with the hashtag to identify it as an ID. If that was a technical jargon to you, just don't even worry about it. Just copy what I did there. But if we save this up and then load the page again, you'll see how it operates. It probably should work right on this page, but I'd rather try it without the builder showing. So let me do this one more time and see if we got everything loaded up on here. And you can see how great our website looks already from about 20 minutes worth of work. And we're linked up, so if we click on it, it slides us right up to the contact form. So I'm going to do the same thing and link up this button as well as this button with that same link for the ID. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. We already went through those settings. I'm just going to do that really quickly after I stop recording here, and I'll go ahead and create the global module for this section. So let me save this. We're going to call this Client Reviews, and we're going to make it a global item, and that way when we do the layout for the next page, we'll just be able to import this entire section. So let's save that to the library. And once we create the global section, it turns this from blue, which is the regular section color, to the lime green, which is the global color. So we're good to go here. I'm going to go ahead and update these links for the quote buttons. And when I meet you back here, we're going to go to the next layout for the inner pages. One thing that I want to reuse here from the home page is the quote form. So I'm going to add this to our library, but I'm not going to make it a global item because I'm going to style it a little bit differently. And I'm going to use this on the sidebar of every page, so it's really easy for people to contact you. And I'll just call this quote form, and we'll save that to the library. And then let's move on to the about page, and this is where we'll create our layout for the inner pages, because right now it has this really bare bones layout, blog layout with the sidebar. So instead of using the default sidebar, we're just going to go with another Divi layout. So let me enable the Visual Builder. You can do that up here. And we will build from scratch again. So this is going to be a main content module with the sidebar that has the contact form and any other modules that you want to add on there. So for this, the left column is going to be a little bit bigger than the right. So this looks like a good size right there. And on this, we're going to add the page title, and that's actually on here as the post title module. So if we put that in here, it's going to show us the page name, the WordPress page name that we define on the back end. And it also gives us the meta information, but I want to hide that. That can be useful for the blog, but you normally don't want that to appear for the pages. So I'm just going to disable that, and we're going to make it bigger, and we're going to center it as well. So let me jump into the design. We'll center it, and I'm going to make it, I think 36 pixels will look good. I meant to stay in the text section here. And it looks like I do have to go into the title text. Here we go. So I will make this 36 pixels and also make it bold. So that's good. And then the next module that we're going to add here is really just whatever content you want to add to the page. So I'm going to do these pages with an image. So I'll just put in an image module and place in one of the images that I already have. For an about page, I'm sure you'd want a picture of maybe the owner or the team. This is the only one I could find with a guy in it, so I'll use this one. And right under that, I'm going to add a text module, and that's where we can write up a little bit about the team. So I'll just leave this as is. And we're done with that. So let me add the contact form over here. Let me see if I could just add it from the library. And there it is, the quote form. And the only thing that I'm going to change here is the button. I'm going to make the button red instead of that tan color. So let me go into the design. And I can change that really easily right from here. And I'll change the text color to light. And we're done with that. So look how easy that is. And then I'm just going to add a title module up here. And you know what? I think the title is here, but yeah, there you go. It's in white. So it's just white on white. I got to change the title color. So let me go into the title text. And here we go. I can change that to black. I mean, that looks great. So let's check that off. Let's jump into the doc and save it. I'm not sure if checking the module actually saves the entire layout or if it just saves the module. Probably just the module, so I always like to save that to be sure using the doc. I mean, really, that's all I'm going to do for the page layout, and then I'm just going to add the two more modules. One custom module that's only going to be on these inner pages that links to the quote form, and then I'm going to add that global module for the reviews. So let's add a new section down here. Got to make sure I'm clicking the right button. It's really close to the doc. And for this one, I'm going to try a full width section. And what I want here is really just an image, a title, a tagline, and a button. So I think I will be able to do that using the either the full width post slider or the slider. Let me try the post slider here. So yeah, this is basically what I want. And this actually shows multiple posts, I believe, if you have a couple of blog posts here. Let me actually go back to the other one. I think this is importing from the blog. I want to do maybe the other module type. So let me delete this entire section and add this, and let's try the full width slider. So yeah, here we go. This is what I want, where you can just customize the title text and it's not imported from the blog. They give you a couple elements here and the arrows to go from one to the other. I'm just going to put one in here, and I think that should just make these arrows and the navigation dots down here disappear. So let me delete this, and there we go. And then I can edit this section, I guess, from the gear menu. Clicked on that. Now we can update the title. So I'm going to put need a reliable landscaper. For the button text, I'll do free quote. And for the tagline, I'll just do contact us today to see how we can help you. and I'll accept those changes, and then we'll do some styling to this. I also want to add an image. Let me see where you can add an image at, if I could do that in here. Yeah, here we go. I missed that section. It was right under the text section, so I'm going to upload an image of a lawnmower. And I'm going to put this one in large size. I said this before, I'm not exactly sure. I probably should check the code to see if it actually puts in the large size, but I'm sure Divi does the resizing automatically, so I just want the highest quality image in there. And then for the background, I'm going to make this green instead of tan. And then I want to update the button to make the button tan instead of red. So let me go into the design of the button. We'll do custom styles. We'll make the button text color dark and the button background color tan. Remove the border. And I'll update the icon on this one with the check mark. So basically all the, and for some reason that did not work right there. Let me see if I didn't select it. For some reason that didn't work. Let me try this again. Edit this module, go into the button design. So I'm going to remove the show button icon and enable it again and see if maybe that changes something here. And there we go, we got it working. So it looks like you may have some little weird things happening with Divi that you might need to work through like that, but overall, I mean, this makes it super easy to create these awesome layouts. And the last section I'm going to add here, well, first let me link up this button. Let me grab the link from this navigation menu. So let me inspect this really quickly. And I'm going to edit this as HTML and just copy this link to the contact form. So I can update this module now, go into the, or let me see, it's got to be the content maybe of the button. So this is the entire module link. I think I need to go into these settings maybe. Yeah, here we go. So this is another thing that might be confusing with Divi. They have a couple different, you can link an entire module, the entire full width module, or go into the content of this slider and link this button. So there's multiple spots you can link. You got to make sure you're doing it at the right one. But like I said earlier in this video, this is the ID of the contact form, the first contact form. So we should be ready to go with that, and we're going to add this last global section that we created for the home page, the client reviews, and there it is. We're done with that. We have our entire inner page layout here, the default sidebar layout, done. So I think what I might do is try and save this layout. Let me see if I can do that using the dock settings down here. Save to library. And I'm just going to call this default sidebar layout. And whatever I press right there brought up this might be like a shortcuts menu. I have no idea how I accessed it. I think I pressed spacebar. So that's also kind of annoying. I wonder if I can disable those keyboard shortcuts, because I definitely have had that happen like 4 or 5 times so far. Let me try this again. We'll save to the library. Let's save this page, and let's see if we can apply this to the services page. So we'll jump over here, enable the visual builder, and I'm going to choose build from scratch here, and I think we just select the layout from the dock over here. And let me try this, load from library. And these are all the pre-made layouts that you can select from if you want to start, if you don't want to start from scratch. I didn't even go through these, but let's jump into RSave layouts and try the default sidebar. And there we go. We have we have the entire page done for us, and I just got to update the content area for the services page. Right now, I'm just going to switch out this image so we have a different image for each page. And I'll just select one that we already have uploaded. And we'll save that page. And then for the gallery page, I'll put in a gallery here. And Divi has their own gallery module. So let's do the same thing we did on the other page. We'll import and then edit the content after we import our layout. And let me delete these two modules, and I'll add in a gallery module. And we can pick our gallery images, and I'll just select all the ones that are not graphic files. And by default right now it's showing the, I guess, either the file name or the caption. So let's see how we could style these. You could disable that. And then you can either show the pagination or not. So right now it's showing 4 images on here. If we show that, I have 6 images selected, or I'm sorry, 5 images selected, so it goes to the second page. So I want to show that. And I think this looks good enough for right now. It has this overlay, and it looks like when I click on it, nothing happens right here. But if I test it out without the Divi Visual Builder enabled, it'll probably work. So let's save this. And let's test out some of these pages because we're pretty much done here. I'm not going to do a layout for the blog page. Right now the blog page is using this default sidebar, and this is like the only page you probably would want this sidebar on. And I find that most small businesses, unless they're writing the blog themselves, this is something that it takes some time to realize the value of, especially local businesses. They don't really understand the value of writing blog posts monthly or bi-weekly or what have you. So my recommendation is always just to get the site out there with the minimum amount of pages, and you can add to it over time. You can build out this layout if you like, but I think right now this is pretty much our website, which is ready to launch. So let me test it out. Like I said, I'm on the home page right here without the Visual Builder, but I'm actually just going to log out of WordPress so we can see how it looks to somebody who's visiting this page that's not an admin user. So we'll go back to it without the admin bar up top, and I mean, this home page looks really good. You can see how all the elements kind of load in, they fade in, and then if we click the free quote button, it goes there. If we scroll back up, click this free quote button, it goes down here. And the same thing, if we click the quote button from the navigation menu, it's going to go down here. All links are leading towards this, and this is where we can track the conversion to see what's actually converting to leads for this business. So let's jump over to the About page. And we have our About layout. Test out this button. Goes up to the quote form. That button goes to the quote form, so we're good to go on here. Try out the services page. And everything looks good on here. Quote button works. Try out the gallery page. And let's click on an image. The only thing I might want to change in this is maybe make the overlay black or dark instead of white. But I mean, that's such a minimal change. Like, that's somebody's not going to decide for or against a business because of that. But that's the type of thing a web designer or graphic designer might focus on intently. That's something that would really bother them. I've come to realize that those changes are just minor things. And then if we check out our blog layout, we have the basic design instead of the Divi layout. So the last thing I want to check here is just the contact form. I want to submit it, get the email, and show you what the email looks like. So I'll fill this out. If you remember, we have the verification for the phone number, so I have to put in an 11-digit phone number. And when we fill it out, let's test it out. We'll send it. and we get a little thank you message. Right now it's in gray, so you could barely read it. That's something I also would need to change, but it says, "Thanks for contacting us." And when I receive this email, I will go into Gmail and show you that. Here's the email that we received from that contact form. So you can see the structure for the subject. It is new message from, and then it inserts your WordPress website title, which in our case is landscaping theme. And then it shows you the title of the quote form itself, which is get a free quote. And it's mailed from mail@yourdomain.com. It looks like this is coming through my website, which is websiteprofitcourse.com. And I'm assuming that's because the admin user is under my domain name. It puts their name in the to field. This is where the message is, and then it displays the phone number, or I guess whatever other custom fields you want to add to your form, to the end of the message. So if you want to customize this, you can. Another thing with contact forms on live websites, they can usually be a source of spam. So delivery of those contact form messages can sometimes be a problem. You might want to look into that. If that's the case, you might also just want to re-enable the CAPTCHA that I disabled at the beginning. But there we have it. It's a really functional website, a great looking website that's mobile responsive. Let's take a look at what it looks like in mobile here. I didn't really do that. So when we adjust the width here, you can see how the site breaks down. And right around there, that's where our blurb sections go to one column instead of 3 columns. So I mean, this looks great. And even at this width, because we're linking to the ID of the quote form, regardless of where it is on the page, our buttons are always going to link to that form. And you can also see that we have our mobile navigation menu, which is a little drop-down menu here. We have a great website to build off of. And once you launch, that's when you're probably going to want to install a couple plugins. I generally like to keep the plugins to a minimum, probably less than 10 per website installation. And the ones that I use on almost every website are SEO by Yoast. That's where you can customize the titles for each page to drive more website traffic. Pretty Links, which is a plugin that allows you to add easy redirects, so you can create easy links like yourdomain.com/Facebook, and that could forward to your company's Facebook page. And the other one that I also mentioned at the beginning of this video, or I don't know if I mentioned the name of it, but it's called W3 Total Cache. And that's going to serve the same purpose that the pre-installed, must-use plugin that we had on here does. It's going to save versions of your website so you're not constantly loading it from your web server, which goes against your bandwidth. And then the other two things that I recommend is that you install Google Analytics and Google Search Console for your website, and that's going to show you how your website's performing once it's out in the wild and starts getting noticed by Google and the search engines. That's it for this tutorial, and now you can take it from here. At the end of this video, I'll link up a video that I created on my favorite plugins. You can go through that and pick and choose what to install, and that includes some of the ones I just mentioned. I'll also put all the links that you see here in the description below. So if you haven't set up your website, go to hostgator.com/WPC1, and that's going to give you the best deal on the 1-year term, which is 45% off, and that'll be auto applied. If you don't go through that link, you can just use the coupon code on the checkout page. And you'll probably want to save this video and rewind to the beginning to review how to get up and running. Divi seems to be the go-to drag and drop theme for WordPress beginners, so if you'd like to use it for your website after going through this tutorial, go to websiteprofitcourse.com/Divi, and that'll take you to the Divi gallery where you can view live demos of other types of websites and get more info on them. This specific Divi landscaping child theme that we built, that's going to be available to my premium members. So if you're interested in making money with your WordPress skills, check out my web design business plan membership, which is at websiteprofitcourse.com/plan. That includes 8 training modules on how to make recurring income from local small business clients, along with a bunch of other videos. I'm adding to it every month. There's sales and marketing templates and a lot of other downloads, so a lot of cool stuff involved there. And I recently created a private community forum while also doing monthly Q&A videos for my members where I answer your questions related to freelancing. Check that out if it sounds like something that might help you out. And then throughout 2019, I will add more of these Divi child themes for various business types for my premium members, and that's going to save you hours of work when you create a new client website. So the membership is going to have really great value if you go with Divi as your theme of choice. Last but not least, if you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It took a long time to prepare and record this tutorial, so if you do that and nothing else, I'll love you. And I'd also love to hear your comments below, especially if you have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of videos planned for this year, so if you don't want to miss those, click the notifications button. And I know that I learned a ton recording this tutorial with Divi. I hope you did as well. And I got to thank my subscribers because you are the ones that pointed out Divi to me, and I can totally see why it's one of the most popular WordPress themes available today. It's super easy to use, and you can create a great looking website literally in minutes. As always, thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video.